So some future prospects, obviously getting acquainted here in the last couple of weeks for National Signing Day and trying to make that decision and getting that last impression of campus and the coaching staff and everybody involved. And so looking at last weekend, what were some of those key visits that took place?
Yeah, that's a great, lead in there. So last weekend, January the 13th weekend, as we're recording this now, um, there were 6 official visitors to Miami. Trajan Bandy, who I just spoke about, and DJ Johnson, who I just spoke about, were both visiting. In addition to them, Evidence Njoku, this is David Njoku's younger brother. I won't call him the little brother because he had a growth spurt this year, and he went from 6'4" to about 6'6". And I saw them in person. This is Evidence and David at the Russell Athletic Bowl, and Evidence is a clear couple inches taller than David, who's a solid 6'4", 6'4.5". So yeah, he's a tall wide receiver, and he's pretty much locked in with us. He's the only wide receiver that we have, but tall and talented. I'm not going to talk really about Bandy or Johnson because I already did, and they're both solid commits. So those 3 commits were there. The interesting visits were Jordan Pouncey, who's about a 6'2", 6'3" wide receiver type guy from Winter Park High School. He was formerly committed to Notre Dame, but decommitted. And he is now looking around. He says that Miami is in his top group with Notre Dame and a couple of other schools. But the major scuttlebutt is that he's going to come to Miami. Pouncey was in downtown Orlando filming his commitment video yesterday. And then as you look at 24/7 Sports Crystal Balls, where I have one and other people do also, where they can make predictions on where players are going to go to college. There's been like 14 in a row for Jordan Pouncey coming to Miami. So even though he is publicly espousing that he's wide open, a lot of people believe that he's on his way down to Coral Gables, and that Miami was the reason why he decommitted from Notre Dame to begin with. So if everything continues that way, that would be positive, obviously, because we need more than one wide receiver in this class. So somebody to join Evidence Njoku. Another player who could fit in that group is West Virginia commit and U.S. Army All-American Mike Harley. He is basically uncoverable one-on-one. There's a 7-on-7 coach down here for his 7-on-7 team, the South Florida Express. Follow him on Twitter at Sean Face, like your face, my buddy Sean. And he said last year about this time, he said, I put up the challenge to Army All-American and Under Armour All-American directors of scouting or whatever. Find me your best defensive back, and I guarantee you they cannot cover Mike Harley. And, I mean, there's a super cut of him at Under Armour All-American Week in one-on-ones, and he was just dirty, just nasty. He's 5'9", 155 pounds, kind of light, but when you're as fast as Mike Harley, you don't have to be huge. He's committed to West Virginia, and that's kind of been a saga where, West Virginia was the first team to offer him, the first major team he committed there. And, shortly before the dead period in December, Mike Harley, first of all, he said whoever won the Russell Athletic Bowl between Miami and West Virginia, that's where he would go with this pick. That was kind of tongue-in-cheek, but obviously, recruiting people who follow it, oh my God, he said it. But, yeah, come on, like, he's a kid. Like, he was playing around a little bit, after his state championship game win with St. Thomas Aquinas, a couple of his teammates were throwing up the U behind his head and like, hey, he's going to flip, whatever, kind of a thing. So after that, Mike Harley shut down his recruitment. Reportedly, he said he wasn't going to take any more visits, but ended up on campus last weekend for that visit. So he could potentially be in play for someone who flips from their commitment to Miami. And then that would be another wide receiver with speed. And again, if you've been following these videos that Mark and I have been doing for a while, Mark Richt has said from day one he needs more speed at wide receiver. That's his number one goal. And Pouncey and Harley would definitely address that issue, both of them being elite level speedsters, but Harley even more so than Pouncey because Harley can fly. And the last visitor last week, so there were 6, was Jhavonte Dean. He's a 6'2" cornerback from Glenn Junior College in Texas. He's a native South Floridian. He's from Homestead, went to South Dade Senior High School, and was not a huge recruit coming out of high school. He wasn't really offered by anybody. So he went to junior college, to develop his skills a little bit and raise his profile as a recruit, and he did just that. Currently committed to Alabama. There is, if they have in this class or not. On top of that, Dean was reportedly impressed by the fact of coming to the hometown team, hometown school, and he had never actually been to the University of Miami campus. So as a minor aside, Miami, the University of Miami is in Coral Gables, which is a kind of affluent suburban area. If you watch the U and they showed all those manicured lawns and all those things, these wonderful, gigantic houses, the Biltmore Hotel where they had the shootout scene from the original Bad Boys where the young lady's running across the roof, that's in the heart of Coral Gables. It's a premium hotel. Like, those are the places around. So some of these kids from the city and from these areas don't actually make it to campus because it is like a world away from home for them. And Dean, being, even a junior college sophomore, he was one of those guys who had never actually made it to the University of Miami campus. So it was really an eye-opening kind of thing when he came down. His mother still lives in South Florida, so she went over with him for the visit and everything, and made a good impression. Dean said that he's still solid with Alabama, but again, they might not have a spot for him, and that might be a little bit of, of a smoke screen on the front when he's actually looking to flip over to Miami. He would definitely play day one at cornerback because we're losing a lot at that position. So even with guys like Trajan Bandy and maybe DJ Dallas, even though he could play both sides of the ball, for Jhavonte Dean, there would definitely be a spot for him and plenty of snaps for him to play. So hopefully the reported developments, especially with Harley and Pouncey and Dean, come to fruition. But with that six-player group of visitors from last week, very solid. Hopefully, the momentum continues as we move forward into this week.
Kim, getting back to Mike Harley, it does seem a bit ridiculous that a player would make a decision on where not only to play football, but to attend school, spend the next 4 years of his life based on a football game. But kids have made more frivolous choices coming out of high school about where they were going to go to college. And if you're going to make a football comparison and look at, okay, these are the guys that I'm going to be playing with for the next 3 or 4 years versus these are the guys that I'm going to be playing with for the next 3 or 4 years, especially considering what Miami has in that freshman class on defense. Maybe that's cause for consideration.
Yeah, it could be cause for consideration, and people have made more important decisions for definitely less of a foundation than who won the game and everything. But this kind of part and parcel with recruiting. You're trying to read the minds of 17, 18, and 19-year-olds, which is hard to do sometimes. And you get things that pop up like that. When I was in high school, I had to decide between a class. Band and chorus because I'm a musician. Like, that's what I do. I've been in music my entire life. And the band class and the choir class that I was going to take or could take were offered the exact same period. And so I stood there at the registrar's desk with a coin and flipped a coin. And, that actually impacted the path of my life and what I do professionally and all these things, but literally over the toss of a coin. So I say that to say, I made a decision it ended up being frivolously. It ended up working out. But, yeah, I think Mike Harley could have done that. Obviously, he hasn't come out and flipped to Miami, even though, we did win that game 31-14, in case you forgot, West Virginia fans. I'm not going to let you forget. But, excuse me. So hopefully we'll see. But, strange times we live in with recruiting. So, you just take everything with a grain of salt and keep on moving.
Coin tosses don't necessarily work out for Jerome Bettis, but that one definitely worked out for you, Cam. Well done.
Detroit native also, Jerome Bettis, by the way.